Hello fans of Agile software development. Today I'm presenting you how my team concretely works and how we are dealing with the Agile process. Therefore, I prepared today some PowerPoint slides with our Scrum board, and the presentation will be that I walk through the steps on our Scrum board and I explain what we are doing here in detail. So our Scrum board has 5 columns. We have a to-do column as a starting point, in progress column. Third column is code review and testing. That's our QA step for ensuring the quality. And we have an acceptance column and finally the done column, which is the last step. But let's go in detail first with the to-do column. So here you find all user stories or bug tickets. They look like this one. That is just an example. We will not go into the details about this user story or user stories in general, but this is just one item and how it could look on our Scrum board. So if it is a new item which has where the work has not started, you find it in the to-do column. Typically, those tickets are unassigned so that every developer can pull it. So we have a pull principle. The developer assigns the task to himself or herself and then starts with developing. Therefore, the ticket is moved into the second column, the in progress column, and that means the coding and the work on the user story or the bug ticket has started. Here we are flexible. We don't have hard rules that pair programming is mandatory. Pair programming is in our case optional. So it depends if one person or two persons are working on a user story. Then we have our next column, which is the code review and testing column. In this video, I will dive deep inside this column because that is really the main focus of the presentation, about speaking about how we ensure the quality of our development. And that's why we have it also as a dedicated column on our board. Yeah. So code review is always mandatory if there has not been the development done upfront in pair programming. So the mandatory part is the 4I principle. We want that always two people have worked on it. One person worked on it, the other one checked it, or if it was pair programming style, we make the assumption that the code review was done by the two programming partners. Yeah, so the main thing is we need a 4I principle, and that ensures the code quality by having always this code review. In the code review column, the ticket is also first unassigned. Then if the development is done, the developer shifts it to the next column and unassigns the ticket. So any other developer can do the code review and testing by just assigning the user story and then doing it. Yeah? Unfortunately, our team does not have a dedicated tester, so the developers must test by themselves. So that we have the full quality. And that means that the code review and the internal tests are done typically together by one person. And yeah, there are also some kind of bug tickets. So we have external tester teams, and if they reported a bug ticket, then they will do also a testing. But that's not meant here. So we have always an internal code review in the team and an internal test. In general, our style of development is trunk-based development. That means our code changes are pushed to master branch, and that triggers the CICD pipeline. The CICD pipeline executes always our unit tests, our integration tests, and our end-to-end tests, and therefore we have always the full quality. In case that there is trouble when someone pushed something to the master branch which has some bug, yeah, the pipeline will tell us this, and we can just revert this bug or fix it forward by quickly fixing it and repairing once again our CI/CD pipeline. I don't want to judge whether feature branch based development, let's say the Git hub flow is better or not. Yeah. So in our case, that fits more. And it's also open for every developer who thinks that this particular user story is super complex and should be reviewed before it is merged into master branch. That is up to the developer. Yeah. So you can also in our team create a feature branch, create a merge request, and then document it in the ticket and pass it to the code review column. Then the code reviewer would work on this merge request and move on. Yeah. So that is somehow a flexibility we have. If there are issues found in the code review or we have failed tests, then of course the ticket is moved back into the in progress column, and yeah, it has to be fixed, it has to be reworked. But let's now dig deeper in the quality aspect and into our CI/CD pipeline. So as I said before, each commit to the master branch triggers the CI/CD pipeline. As you can see here, we have the build step. The build step is a Maven build. The Maven build executes all unit and integration tests. So that happens always within the CI/CD pipeline. And we have also here this kind of notification step. That means if the build was successful, a Docker image has been successful created, then we get a positive feedback from the CI/CD pipeline. In case that there was an error in the build, then we get a negative feedback. And that is some kind of notification which we send to a special WebEx chat group where every developer in our team is reading it, is watching it, and you get notified, and then you are triggered to repair the pipeline if you made a commit which broke, for example, the unit tests or integration tests. But if that was not the case, the pipeline moves on. We have here another big quality step. And here our CI/CD pipeline is executing in parallel a bunch of scanners. So those scanners are checking, for example, the dependencies, whether we use outdated libraries or not. And if that is fine, the scanner passes. We check the licenses, if there are license issues with the software we used, or especially the third parties libraries which we used, whether there are passwords and secrets in our code. All this stuff is checked here. Our CI/CD pipeline connects also against SonarQube, and that triggers a deeper static code analysis, as you might know it already from SonarQube. So that's nothing special if you know already SonarQube. But in order to find the problems with a static code analysis earlier, we have the rule that every developer is using SonarLint already in the IDE, already during the development progress. And that helps us to fix the issues earlier and not in this stage where it's more complicated and it always then would delay the review. So let's fix it early directly while building, and that's why we are using SonarLint integrated in our IDE. Yeah, after these tests passed, the deployment is triggered. So here you see the pipeline continues here, but I had to cut it because otherwise it would get too long. So here we have once again the deploy steps, which we have seen before. And every successful push to the master branch, which passed all the earlier stages, triggers a deployment into our dev environment. So this is an automatic deployment. Our environments represent 3 stages. The first stage is a dev stage, which has a dev environment. That is an environment used only by our team. We have a stage environment, which is our software in a more stable version, also used by other teams which work with our software. And of course, we have a production environment where the real customers are using our software. And those 3 stages are so far enough. And the idea is we deploy always fully automatically to the dev environment, and to the stage environment, it's currently one click here on this button, and then the deployment to stage is executed, but that is currently a manual step. We are in the process of thinking whether we should automate it if all tests in earlier stages passes, and therefore we have to dig deeper in the deployment to dev environment process. Yeah, you see it here. The deployment happens, and there is also a selenide check, quality check. So selenide is executed. Selenide is some end-to-end test framework based on Selenium. Yeah, you might have heard more often about Selenium. It's a tool which clicks through the UI and tests your application like this. And that is something we have in place. And those selenide tests are executed in our dev environment right after the deployment, so that we always check if the main use cases, we only test the main use cases with Selenium because it's some kind of expensive test. If those tests pass, yeah, then we get once again a notification in our chat group, and we know that in the dev environment we have the required quality, and we are good to trigger the deployment to the stage environment, which is, as I said before, just a click on this button. Yeah, so that is the built-in quality we have. So we are once again on our Scrum board. After this code review and testing step is done, the ticket is moved into the acceptance column. Now our team has more roles. Yeah, of course, it had all the time more roles, but we have a product owner and a business analyst responsible to accept user stories inside this column. So they double check if the development has been done as expected, if the test and code review have been done as expected, and then they might just close the ticket, or they might do some extra tests so that we don't have just 4 eyes. So at this point we would have 6 eyes on each user story. And in case of bugs which have been reported by our external end-to-end testing team, yeah, in that case the bug would be retested or tested by this end-to-end testers. So it's double tested, and they close then the bug ticket, and the product owner and business analyst would accept it. And then we are already in the final state. The ticket is closed, and that is our done state. Yeah, then the work is really done. Yeah, and that's it. That is our progress. It consists of those 5 steps. We have the quality built in our process by having a code review and testing step also on the Scrum board, and that makes it mandatory. And yeah, I'm super interested how your development process looks like. Feel free to add some comments about this in below this video, because I don't think that my process, which I shared with you here, is the silver bullet. It's probably not a perfect process. We work agile. Yeah, we have each sprint retrospectives where we can discuss this process and improve it. And that is something you should also do in your agile working. And my idea of sharing this is more that you see how others are doing it, and if there are some pieces of my process which would help you, yeah, then feel free to reuse those concepts and start to doing it in the same way. If it doesn't fit for your case, for the software you develop, or for the stakeholders requirements you have, then don't adapt it like this. If you like this video, please give me a thumb up, and if you are interested in more in the future, subscribe to my channel. So see you next time. Bye bye.